Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel Bachelor Nation News. Fans, two hearts walking away from the beaches of paradise, but instead of fading into reality TV history, Bailey and Jeremy chose a life so unpredictable, it's now redefining what it means to find love when the cameras stop rolling. And just when Bachelor Nation thought the surprises were over, in sweeps Taylor Frankie Paul, with a revelation so staggering, it has fans rethinking everything they thought they knew about The Bachelorette. What's really going on behind the smiles, the Instagram captions, and the carefully chosen words? Today, we're diving deep into the shocking truths of Bailey and Jeremy's life after Paradise, and Taylor Frankie Paul's game-changing bombshell that could shake the franchise forever. Bailey and Jeremy weren't supposed to be the ones who lasted. Remember how hesitant Jeremy was in those first few episodes? Fans wrote him off as another forgettable face in the sand. Bailey? She was seen as too sweet, too careful with her heart, maybe too cautious to survive the whirlwind of Paradise. But here's the twist. What no one saw coming was how that very caution, the slow build, the careful conversations under the stars, would become the foundation of something stronger than even the producers could script. When the cameras cut and the world stopped caring, that's when Bailey and Jeremy's real story began. No handlers, no producers whispering in their ears, just two people, stripped of fantasy suites and rose ceremonies, staring each other down in the harsh light of real life. And here's the part that shocked even their closest friends. Rather than crumbling under the weight of reality, they thrived. They made the bold decision to step away from the spotlight entirely. No constant TikToks, no heavily filtered couples content. Instead, they invested in living quietly, but deeply. Now, you'd think a quiet life meant a boring life, right? Not at all. Their post-Paradise chapter has been full of detours, heartbreaks, and rebirths that none of us could have predicted. Bailey, for one, left her comfortable job and threw herself into advocacy work, using her platform not for fame, but for something far greater. Jeremy, he shocked everyone by moving states, uprooting his entire life just to prove that love wasn't just a storyline, it was his reality. And together, they faced challenges that made Paradise look like child's play. But what's more fascinating than what they did is what they didn't do. They didn't conform to the Bachelor playbook. They didn't cash in on discount codes or podcast deals. Instead, they redefined what it means to win in this franchise. And trust me, their story holds a lesson that goes beyond romance. It's about resilience, reinvention, and daring to love authentically in a world that profits off performance. But just as Bailey and Jeremy were rewriting their love story, another storm was brewing, and it has Taylor Frankie Paul's name written all over it. Now, if you followed Taylor, you know she's no stranger to making headlines. But her latest revelation is not about TikTok, not about rumors, not about the past. It's about the future. Out of nowhere, Taylor dropped a bombshell. She's been in conversations with producers, and yes, whispers suggest she may be stepping into the role of the Bachelorette. Can you imagine? The same woman who's been both villainized and romanticized in the media, now taking the lead role in one of the most beloved and scrutinized dating shows in America. It's the kind of twist that feels scripted, yet it's too raw, too real to be fiction. Fans are split. Some say it's a redemption arc waiting to happen. Others fear it will shatter the show's credibility. But here's the kicker, and this is where Bailey and Jeremy's story collides with Taylor's. Because while Bailey and Jeremy stepped out of the spotlight, Taylor is about to step directly into it. It's a tale of opposites, two paths carved from the same franchise, each challenging what we thought was possible after Paradise. And maybe that's the bigger lesson here. For those of us who've lived long enough to see trends rise and fall, relationships blossom and break, the real shock isn't the headline, it's what these stories tell us about ourselves. Bailey and Jeremy show us that love can survive when we strip away performance and lean into vulnerability. Taylor Frankie Paul reminds us that sometimes the only way to change your story is to step into the fire, knowing full well that not everyone will cheer you on. It's about reinvention, resilience, and the courage to let your life take an unexpected turn. And isn't that something we've all had to face? A time when the world doubted us, when the odds seemed stacked, when people whispered that we couldn't possibly succeed,
Yet we did. So here's the question you're left with tonight. Will Bailey and Jeremy's quiet revolution of love outlast the glare of Bachelor Nation's fleeting fame? And will Taylor Frankie Paul's shocking leap into the Bachelorette spotlight bring redemption or ruin? Because if there's one thing we've learned from these stories, it's this: the ending is never the ending. It's just the beginning of the next twist none of us saw
weren't supposed to make it. Two people who, according to almost everyone, were destined to fade into Bachelor Nation trivia. Bailey and Jeremy. But what if I told you their journey after Paradise is not only real, it's more shocking, more inspiring, and yes, more human than anything you've seen on your TV screen. And just when you thought you knew where this story was headed, another twist explodes onto the scene. Taylor Frankie Paul, TikTok's most controversial name, drops a Bachelorette bombshell that has fans divided, producers scrambling, and critics stunned. Tonight, we're pulling back the curtain, because this isn't just a recap of reality TV. It's a story of second chances, unexpected courage, and the kind of reinvention that makes you wonder, what's your next chapter going to look like? You remember them, right? Bailey with that soft but steady voice, only second-guessing whether she belonged there. Jeremy, who, let's be honest, looked like he wasn't even sure what he was doing on the beach. They were background characters at first, two people the audience didn't peg for longevity. But here's the truth Bachelor Nation missed. When the cameras stopped rolling, their story finally began. No producers whispering in their ears, no pressure to create moments that would trend online. Just two people waking up to the unfiltered, sometimes unglamorous, but deeply authentic rhythm of real life. And let me tell you, it shocked even them. Bailey walked away from her comfortable 9-to-5. She said, "I didn't survive Paradise just to survive life. I want to live it." That one sentence, it became her mantra. She threw herself into advocacy, quietly, without posting every move, working with organizations that gave her life deeper meaning. Jeremy, he made a move so bold, most of us would call it reckless. He packed his life into boxes, left his hometown, and relocated states just to build a life with Bailey. He said, "If I can uproot my life for a TV show, I can uproot it for love." Powerful, isn't it? And what's even more shocking is what they didn't do. They didn't cash in. No merch lines, no podcast, no oversaturated Instagram deals. Instead of chasing clicks, they chose depth. Instead of trying to keep up with the glossy couples of Bachelor Nation, they carved their own path. That is real courage. But make no mistake, this wasn't all sunshine. Away from the cameras, they faced storms bigger than Paradise ever threw at them. Moving in together? Not glamorous. It was messy. Jeremy admitted there were nights they weren't sure they'd make it through. Bailey confessed she sometimes wondered if walking away from her old life was a mistake. Here's where it gets profound. Instead of collapsing, they chose to fight for each other. They leaned into the struggles. Bailey said in an interview, "Paradise was easy. Real life is the test." And she's right, because real love isn't roses at sunset. It's bills, it's disagreements, it's sitting across from each other at the dinner table and asking, are we in this for the long haul? And the fact that they keep answering yes, that's their shock factor. Not the drama, not the fame, but the quiet, everyday decision to love. And just as Bailey and Jeremy found their rhythm, another headline jolted the fandom awake. Enter Taylor Frankie Paul. Now, Taylor is no stranger to controversy. She's been a household name on TikTok, a lightning rod for attention, sometimes admiration, sometimes criticism. But what she revealed recently, that's the kind of bombshell that shakes an entire franchise. She announced she's been in talks, serious talks, to become the Bachelorette. Can you imagine? A woman America thought it knew. Scandal, headlines, judgment, stepping into the role that's supposed to represent love, hope, and fairy tale romance. The same Taylor Frankie Paul who the media once tried to tear apart? It's polarizing, of course. Some say it's a genius redemption arc. Others insist it'll ruin the integrity of the show. But here's the real kicker.
Taylor herself doesn't seem fazed. She said, "Why not me? I've made mistakes, but I've learned from them. Isn't that what this show is supposed to be about?" And you know what? She's not wrong. Because isn't growth the very heart of love stories? Isn't forgiveness, resilience, and daring to begin again the most relatable story of all? So here we are with two stories unfolding at the same time. Bailey and Jeremy stepping out of the spotlight to build something real. Taylor Frankie Paul stepping into the spotlight, daring the world to let her reinvent herself. And maybe, just maybe, these stories aren't opposites. Maybe they're two sides of the same coin. Because whether you choose quiet resilience or bold reinvention, the lesson is this: your past doesn't define you. Your circumstances don't control you. What matters is the choice you make in the present. Do you step back or do you step forward? Will Bailey and Jeremy's quiet revolution of love outlast the fleeting fame of Bachelor Nation? Or will the world one day pull them back into the spotlight they've worked so hard to escape? And as for Taylor Frankie Paul, will her shocking leap into the Bachelorette spotlight bring redemption? Or will it be the gamble that breaks the franchise as we know it? The truth is, none of us know. But here's what we do know. In love, in life, in every chapter we face, the ending is never really the ending. It's just the beginning of the next twist none of us saw coming.